If you've tried to lower estrogen and nothing's working, this is probably why. I see this all the time. Women doing the right thing, they've got the right diet, taking the right supplements, things like DIM, broccoli sprouts, supporting their liver, but their symptoms are still there. Things like PMS, bloating, breast tenderness, heavy periods. And in a lot of cases, it's not because estrogen's too high, it's because the body's not clearing it properly. And sometimes it's actually being recycled. So what this looks like in real life is someone doing everything right, but their symptoms don't shift. And that's usually the most frustrating part, because it feels like you're doing what you're supposed to do. And here's what most people don't realize. The level of estrogen in the blood is only part of the story. What matters most is what happens after it's been used, which pathway it takes to get metabolized, whether it gets neutralized properly, and whether it actually leaves the body or gets recycled. Because estrogen detoxification is not just one step. There's 3 phases to detoxification, and most advice only focuses on phase 1. In this video, I'll walk you through all 3 phases and show you where this process tends to break down. I'm Michael Smith, naturopathic doctor, and let me show you where this usually goes wrong. Estrogen itself isn't the problem. It's a necessary hormone. It has positive effects on our brain, bones, cardiovascular system, and reproductive tissues. But once it's done its job, the body needs to break it down, neutralize it, and remove it. And if that doesn't happen properly, estrogen keeps acting on the tissues longer than it should. And that's where the symptoms come from. Now, this is where a lot of people get stuck. Some women have never had their estrogen levels tested. Others have been told their estrogen levels are normal on their test. But estrogen changes throughout the cycle, so a random blood test without the correct timing doesn't really tell us much. If you've had your hormones tested before and was told everything is normal, were you told to do the test at a particular time of the cycle? Leave a comment below. I'd be interested to know. Because what matters the most is when you test and what you measure. Because you can have completely normal estrogen levels and still have symptoms if metabolism of estrogen is the issue. And this is where the 3 phases come in. Most people focus on phase 1. Some may understand phase 2, but phase 3 is where a lot of the symptoms are actually getting caused by. Phase 1 is where estrogen gets broken down. You can think of it as like 3 different directions your body can send estrogen. One pathway is protective, one keeps estrogen active for longer, and one can create more reactive compounds, potentially increasing risk of things like breast cancer. Which pathway estrogen takes depends on things like alcohol, body fat, environmental exposure, smoking, and diet. And this is exactly what the Dutch test shows. It's a hormone test that looks at how your body is processing estrogen, not just how much estrogen you have, but how your body is processing it. Phase 2 is where those breakdown products get neutralized. The key process here is methylation. This is driven by an enzyme called COMT. Its role is to take potentially reactive compounds and make them safe so that they can be removed by the body. If this process is not supported, those compounds can build up, and this pathway depends on nutrients like magnesium, vitamin B6, B12, and folate. One thing a lot of people don't realize is that this same pathway also affects the metabolism of things like dopamine and noradrenaline. So if someone has estrogen-related symptoms like anxiety or mood changes, this pathway is also being affected. And the Dutch test measures the phase 2 methylation of estrogen. But even if phase 1 and phase 2 are working really well, you can still have symptoms. And this is where I see a lot of people are going wrong, because estrogen has to leave the body. After phase 2, it gets packaged up for elimination and sent to the gut. But in the gut, certain bacteria produce an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase. This enzyme can start to break down that package, and when that happens, estrogen gets released again, and instead of leaving the body, it gets reabsorbed back in. So everything the body was doing in phase 1 and phase 2 gets undone. And that's what people mean when they talk about estrogen being recycled back into the body. And this is why gut health directly is connected to estrogen symptoms. It's not a vague link, it's a very specific mechanism. If you have symptoms like constipation, this is going to be exacerbated. And this is something I see often in clinic. Women taking supplements like DIM, and they may help for a little while, but after a while their symptoms come back, sometimes worse, because they're speeding up detoxification in phase 1 and maybe phase 2, but everything's just getting recycled back into the system. The GI map stool test measures this enzyme directly, and this is why combining a test like the Dutch hormone test with the GI map test can give you the complete picture on estrogen detoxification. Because you can have good phase 1 and phase 2, and if you're still having symptoms, phase 3 is likely the problem area. Now, when it comes to treatment, the most commonly recommended supplement is DIM. And DIM does work. It pushes estrogen down that safer pathway, but it can also lower estrogen levels too much, and that's not what we want. In some people, it's helpful if you have really high estrogen, but in others, especially if your estrogen is normal, estrogen is already low or borderline, it can push things too far. And that's where you can see things like low mood, vaginal dryness. If the issue is phase 3, if estrogen is being cycled in the gut, then improving phase 1 won't fix the underlying problem. And there are a number of ways to support estrogen detoxification. Things like cruciferous vegetables, sulforaphane, ground flaxseed and other fiber, magnesium, B vitamins, and making sure you're not constipated. And for some people that's enough. What I commonly see in practice is that people are targeting the wrong area. And if you don't do the testing, you're just guessing at what's actually happening. With the test, you can actually see which issue is the problem. Phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3. Or if you need to focus on something else completely different. And that changes how you approach things completely. That's what the Dutch test and the GI map allow us to do. Other options include the Vibrant Wellness Gut Zoomer and the Hormone Zoomer. They will also give us the exact steps you need to take to optimize your hormones and your gut health. For more information on the test that I've mentioned, I'll leave a link in the description. And if this explains what you've been dealing with, watch this video next where I do a full breakdown of the Dutch test and everything else it covers besides estrogen. It checks testosterone, adrenal function in detail, and the organic acid markers. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment below.